Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Just tell our viewers a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So I'm Jonathan. I'm Yorkshire born and bred. 18 years ago, I was a computer repairman, and I had this crazy idea to start a company, an IT services company, because I suppose running a company is the same as being a computer repairman. And I did that. 18 years later, we're still here. We've got a team of 15 people in our head office in Knaresborough. We've got 5 people in our offshore office in Manila, the Philippines.
Good.
And we've got clients all over the world, Australia, America, Canada, you name it, we've got clients there.
That's fabulous growth. And we are, of course, talking about Integral IT, which is the name of your company,
yes,
aren't we? So tell me, 18 years ago, were you in a dead end? What were you thinking at that point? Were you thinking, I need to do something different?
I suppose so. I was born and brought up in a place called Wakefield, and I moved to North Yorkshire, so I moved to Ripon, and I was still commuting back to Wakefield, to my job, as it were. I worked for a law firm, and then suddenly a local company knew I was in IT. I knew I was a computer repairman, and so said, do you want to do our computer repairs? And I think that's how a lot of businesses start, really. You kind of fall into it a little bit.
Yes, rather than some clever plan.
Yeah, so there's no business plan. There's never been any business plans. So I started doing that, and when you're doing a business on your own, you do a good job, and then you get more customers, and that's kind of how it grows and develops.
So take us back again to the beginning. So you've got your first customer.
Yeah.
Their business is secured. Yeah. How did you set up the things that make a business run like its operations, or was that not a consideration at that time?
To be honest, we talk a lot today in my industry about cybersecurity, and back in 2006, it wasn't such a big thing. It was very much, let's put some hardware in and get your email working. Let's back up your files and folders. But cybersecurity was limited to kind of putting antivirus on computers and things. That whole security piece has just grown in the last kind of 10 years, where it's become a massive issue. Yes,
and we'll come back to the cybersecurity side. So you grew it steadily, would you say, for the first few years?
Steadily. I think...
You tell me.
In hindsight, the worst thing happened after a couple of years.
What was that?
And what happened was I landed a really big client, and they paid me quite a lot of money, and they wanted a lot of my time. And so what happened is I ended up being there most of the time, and I had a few other clients, but in a way I was kind of employed in a way, but it was my own company, and I got really complacent with it because I was earning good money, and the desire to grow the business kind of dwindled a little bit. And looking back, that's kind of the worst thing that could have happened. Eventually, I ran that client for a few years, and I became quite dependent on that client. And you can probably guess what happened next. You get called in one day, and it's like the client's going bust. And so overnight, you go from earning this quite high wage, if you like, to having just a handful of clients and struggling financially.
So at that stage, what did you do?
It was kind of a fight or flight thing, if I'm honest. We had cars, we had children in private schools, we had this nice lifestyle, and we had to strip it all back to kind of nothing, really. And I remember kind of having, the cars went back. I remember having about 800 quid, and I needed to buy a car. So I turned up at this local garage and said, I need a car for 800 quid. And they wheeled this old rusty car out and said, you can have this. So I bought it for 800 quid, and I was driving home in this little car. But then also looking back, I think that was kind of a really good time in my life, really, because you strip things back, the stress kind of goes away. And even the kids used to call this little old car Rusty. So it became quite a humorous thing. And so I stripped everything back, and I thought, well, let's try again. Let's grow it again. And I kind of did that and just got more and more clients on board. So it was a real kind of business and life lesson, I suppose.
And I suppose for those listening, the bubble has burst. So there's nowhere further down to go.
Yeah.
So you can survive that bit.
Yeah.
So the only way is forwards from there.
Absolutely. But I had no idea about marketing or anything like that. That's the thing, I think, when you transition. So I was a computer repair guy, and then you're a business owner. And you're supposed to know about marketing and sales and finance and all these things, and you don't really. And most people go into business that way. And so you've got to kind of learn these skills. And if you ask me to this day, well, how did you get clients in that time? I don't really know. I don't really know what happened, but we just got an odd client here, an odd client there. And we're very focused on the Harrogate area because that's where we operated. And we just kind of built slowly and surely.
So not a mad rush to get done in 3 years and out the door. This
absolutely.
is about growing
Yeah.
clients over time, longevity of clients staying
absolutely.
with you.
And there was a massive temptation at that point to think, let's sack the business off. Let's just get a job, look after your family. There we go.
And why didn't you?
I don't know. I think just perseverance. I think that's kind of a theme of mine. If I want something, I will persevere with it until I kind of get there. And I think that's all it was. I wasn't going to be kind of defeated in that way.
Okay. So you grew it again through means we don't quite know, but just hard work, really. I suppose graft. Just graft.
Absolutely.
Being out and about.
Yeah.
Referrals.
Yeah. And, I don't know about your industry, but certainly my industry, I think you can hustle your way to $1 million in revenue in my industry, what we do. And when I say hustle, I mean you're involved with every client relationship. You know every client, every project that's going on, you know about, you're involved in. But then you get to that stage, as we did in the end, we got to that $1 million revenue, but I was extremely, extremely busy at that point. So you got the other side of the coin then, where you're kind of a little bit busy and you're still growing and still growing. And then the business kind of changes then because it becomes more about people and process as opposed to...
Well, let's take that point because that's quite hard, isn't it? You've grown it because of your technical expertise and your ability to win and retain clients. But now if you're going to grow further, you need to rely on others.
You do.
How did that go?
Not very well.
Okay.
I think even to this day, I think 18 years in, I don't think I'm a natural leader. My qualities do lay in other areas. So I'm not a natural leader. I don't always have a great attention to detail. So when it comes to running a business, I think they're two skills that you absolutely need. So you sat there on kind of $1 million revenue and things are kind of bursting at the seams a bit. You've got, team members coming and going because they're kind of dissatisfied because you're not a natural leader. And it's all a bit of an effort. Everything's a bit of an effort. And so as fate had it, I was at a beer festival in Ripon. It was chucking it down. I even said to my wife beforehand, I don't really want to go. But she said, no, we'll just go for a couple. So we went along to this beer festival and at the bar, I bumped into a lad who I used to play football with called Simon. And we got chatting and I said, what are you up to? And he said, well, I'm a bit of he was an MD, but he said, I'm ready for something different. And we just got talking. I said, do you want to come on board in some capacity? And he joined the business. So that's kind of 2-3 years ago. And he's everything I'm not. He's a good leader, a good communicator, good with finance, good with attention to detail. And so what's evolved over the last few years is we've kind of changed things up a little bit. And what we're doing now in the next few months is my role is going to change in the business. I'm going to become founder of the business and Simon's going to take over the managing director.
That's really interesting. And having moved from the technical side to the managing director, taking you away from the bit you liked, how easy then was it to give up the reins and say, right, I'm now going to move into a different role and let Simon take a sort of lead role?
Hard. So I've been in the office this morning. I go in the office maybe 2 days a week and I go in and I start interfering with things.
Yes.
Everybody's got everything handled and I'll start asking questions and should we get this? Should we do this? And I'm told in that situation that my opinion isn't as valuable as it maybe once was.
And that's hard, isn't it?
It is, but it is so good as well because we've got this business and it's running and it's got some fabulous people. And I've still got an input. But I'm not driving it anymore in that way. So also to mention, 4 years ago, I decided to pick up a video camera, press record and started doing videos just to see where it led me. And so my great passion today is video marketing. I've got a YouTube channel, etc. So my responsibility to Integral IT today is actually bringing the leads in. So because of the video marketing, we get so many leads into the business, and that's my primary role.
Yes, we'll come on to that in a moment, because that's, I know, very important to you. So what does Integral turn over now, and how many people does it employ? Where's it got to?
So we're about 2.5 million in revenue today. As I said, we've got 15 people out of Knaresborough, and then we've got an offshore team in Manila in the Philippines, who I'm going to visit in a few weeks' time.
Are you now? Now, that does sound like a good trip.
It does.
So why that? Is that a cost efficiency? Why did you go to Manila?
I think people automatically think it's cost efficiencies, and of course that plays a part. Because we're operating now in different parts of the world, obviously there's time zones involved, and we needed that wraparound care. So the time zone is quite helpful. I find the Filipino people really endearing. I think they share kind of a sense of humour with the UK people. They're incredibly hardworking, and they're incredibly skilled when it comes to IT things. And so sometimes advertising jobs out of Knaresborough in the UK, you don't always get the candidates you want. You know, that's just the way it is. And the candidates that you do get, sometimes for the skill set they've got, they want quite high salaries, etc., etc. And I suppose, as I say, the Filipinos just fit the bill.
It is an interesting thing, isn't it, to be not in a city centre and to attract talent.
Yeah.
And I imagine quite specific talent at times.
And we've recruited people before living maybe an hour away, and they've said, oh, no, it's not a problem to recruit. The commute's not a problem. But they maybe last a few months, and then they say, oh, the commute's not great. So it is. We're in North Yorkshire. We're not in the middle of Leeds or anything like that. So recruitment can be sometimes quite tricky.
So on the Integral side, where do you see it going in the next sort of 3 to 5 years?
Well, people ask this sometimes, and they say things like, have you got an exit strategy and things like that? And I don't. I love the business today, and I love my role in the business today. And I wake up every morning with a desire to make it better. And I think the day I wake up and I don't have that desire to make it better, and it becomes a bit of a grind doing what I'm doing, is the time to leave. But if I, sold the business or anything like that, I'd wake up, the next day and think, well, what am I going to do today, kind of thing. And I know people have done that. You see this building a business and selling it as the ultimate aim, surely. And then they sell it. They might have a few holidays. They might have a bit of downtime, play golf a little bit. And then they're thinking, well, what should I do now?
Yeah, that's quite a difficult one, isn't it? If you've spent your working life in something you really enjoy doing, it's hard just to stop, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, look, that takes us on quite neatly to your video channel on YouTube. I see you've just hit 100,000
subscribers.
Subscribers, that's the word I'm looking for. Much more important to have a subscriber than a viewer. For those who can't see Jonathan across the table, he has a very distinctive, probably about 10-inch beard, and has a wonderful channel. Tell us a little bit about it.
So, 2016, I thought, let's start a YouTube channel. So I did. And I played with it a little bit, few videos. It took me about 5 hours to set the room up, about 5 hours to film it, loads of takes, things like that. An odd video. And then I did what I do quite a lot. I picked it up and I put it down. And it kind of went like that for a few years. But I've always thought I've got this kind of creative side to me that I don't think has ever kind of come out, because you leave school and you fall into IT and you don't really have the time to think about anything you might be passionate about. So there's something about video that really kind of appealed to me. And there was a guy called Ali Abdal who has got about 3.5 million subscribers.
Little way to go.
Yeah, a little way to go. And he, of course, produced a course called Part-Time YouTuber Academy. So if you want to grow a YouTube channel, do this course. It's quite an expensive course, so it was quite a big investment. And I thought, well, if I want to be serious about this, then I need to invest the time. So I did the course, and the way the course worked, it was a series of lives over 8 to 12 weeks, and you turned up and you did homework and things like that. Now, I can say today, I don't remember much about the course, but I do remember one thing. And on most sessions, Ali would say, all you need to do is produce one video every week for 2 years. And if you do that, your life will change. And I thought, that's quite a good goal to get involved in. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to produce one video every week for 2 years. And I'll see where it goes. And here I am 3.5 years later of still doing one video a week. And it has changed my life.
So that is a goal to do one a week, and I sort of get that. But what's the ultimate aim of the YouTube channel? Is it fun? Is it business? What is it that drives that?
It is for business. It develops leads. I've started kind of putting a bit of humour into the videos, which I actually quite enjoy, weirdly. So I've learned quite a lot about myself filming these videos. And the goal, I think, the goal changes. The goal was to reach 100,000 subscribers. That's been done now. And so you're kind of on to the next milestone, if you like. But having said that, it's also not about the numbers. It's about the journey. And the journey is leading to some, fantastic opportunities and some speaking opportunities and things like that. So it is gradually, changing my life.
I remember you telling me that, bearing in mind you're based in Knaresborough, that through your YouTube channel, you'd picked up an account in the south of France, I believe it was.
Yeah, we did. So a guy from south of France said, I've watched all your videos, feel as though I know you. Can you come and do this project for us? So one of the engineers from Integral IT went out and did the project.
That's amazing. And the fact that he said that he knew you comes back to your one video a week.
Yeah.
I suppose building the trust up. And it was, they could trust that they would get a video a week, and they thought that they knew you, I suppose, as a result.
And people come up to you and start, a guy came up to me once and started talking to me and said, I'm really sorry, I thought I knew you, but I obviously have never met you. So it's that familiarity.
You're famous. That's a good sign in the street.
It is.
Tell our listeners the channel so that we can at least get them onto that.
So I've got a beard and I teach videos about 365. So I'm the bearded 365 guy on YouTube.
Yeah. And I have to say, I found it very useful. I actually watch the shorts on TikTok.
Yes.
But there are always things in that Microsoft system which you just don't know about, but are very easily at a press of a button or a touch, aren't they? And it's just being reminded of those and developing your knowledge.
And that's part of the journey. So when I started doing YouTube, I speak to a lot of people and they say, I'm going to do YouTube, but I'm just going to research cameras first. Or I'm going to do YouTube, but I'm going to spend a bit of time thinking about what I'm going to do videos about. And they never actually start. And just by getting your phone out and filming a video, you start this journey. And it's a magical journey, I think. But what happens is you show up every week with a video. And at first, they're probably not very good. But you show up every week. And then what happens after a few weeks is you might think, I might need to just look at the mic situation. And then you get a new mic. And after a few more weeks, you might think, I might just put a bit of humour into this. And I think the goal is just to get 0.1% better every week. And if you do that, that's part of the journey that you go on.
Any big bloopers that you can tell us about, or nothing really? They just tend to...
Not really. No. I often film videos and forget to put the mic on and things like that.
So you have to do them all again.
And I work in the technical industry. So you put it out there and you're just waiting for someone to say, you're wrong. But it's never kind of happened.
No, so that fear, you don't need to fear failure and others putting you down in that sense.
Yeah, you get people saying, you didn't talk about that. And that's fine, because YouTube really is collaboration. This is my content for YouTube, but I'm quite happy for people to add things in the comments that I've missed.
And do you get good collaboration and things that you then build on? And
yeah, absolutely. So I get a lot of IT people. So I suppose in the IT world, I've always had a bit of the imposter syndrome, if you like. I always think I'm not really very good at IT. I'm not as good as these people. So when I've started doing technical subjects, you're getting a lot of IT people asking me to train them. And so it's a real kind of flip, really.
That imposter syndrome is really interesting, isn't it? Because I think, as a business owner myself, you do wonder why people are asking you all these questions and why your voice matters. Yeah. It is quite hard, isn't it, to believe, because you will see people yourself who you admire.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
quite hard to believe sometimes you're in that position.
Yeah. I don't know everything about my subject. No. I don't pretend to. No. But I think you've just got to maybe provide value to the world, really, in a way. And I think we're all just trying our best, aren't we? And I think if you come back to that, it's just about collaboration.
And I suppose on that, you're not therefore trying to reach perfection or achieve perfection. You're just
so,
doing as good as you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or else, like those who've never started, you just don't do it at all, do you?
How many people kind of die at the end of their lives with all these regrets about what they've not done?
Yeah, I think that's very much it. To say that you've started your own company, you've grown it over 18 years, and still you're doing something different like YouTube, that's a great thing to look back on.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
I hope the kids appreciate it. Do you think they will?
It's funny, my son's at college now. He's at boarding school at college, and he woke up the other day and all his mates saying, "Oh, your dad's just hit 100,000 subscribers," which is quite embarrassing for him, I think.
Do you think so? I bet he's proud inside. He's probably embarrassed in front of his mates, but I bet he's quite proud inside. No signs of him coming into the business?
My daughter more likely, so she's on TikTok and things. But I think there's that side of the social media world that can be quite harsh, really. I think sometimes people put themselves out there, and I think my daughter's done that at times and been kind of slated for it. And you see things in the news and things about people who've taken their own lives because of things on social media and things. There is that part of the social media world that I think isn't great. So I do find TikTok the worst for that.
Yes.
I generally find, so I publish videos on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and on TikTok. And I find the comments on TikTok are a little more kind of personal and abusive.
So as a business, how would you sort of rate just the comments you've given? How would you sort of rate the different social media channels for their reach into business and their professionalism, I suppose, in a sense?
I think every business should be on YouTube. I think that's the kind of foundation. That's where you put your videos. I think when it comes to business, I think it's LinkedIn. And if I was going to focus on anything, it would be YouTube and then LinkedIn. I do TikToks because it's not much effort putting things on TikTok as well. But I personally wouldn't be focusing what I do on TikTok. It'd be more LinkedIn for me.
Yes, and that's the business to business reach, isn't it? I suppose the business to consumer.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's very interesting. So, Jonathan, just explain to us what's the biggest external factor that has affected Integral, and how are you coping with that or developing that?
Well, I think that's part of the YouTube journey. What we used to be at Integral is your general IT company. So we used to advertise things like, installing cabling and Wi-Fi access points and servers and all this. If you go onto any IT company website, they'll have so many services listed. And so what happened with the YouTube journey is I started creating videos on all these things. I'd have a video on what the best Dell computer used to be and how to secure your company with cybersecurity. And that's still really important. But what tends to happen is I will looking at the YouTube stats and thinking, well, that video about hardware is not really going anywhere. And I spent an awful lot of time on that cybersecurity video, and it's not really got what I want it to do. But these Microsoft 365 videos here, these are just so popular, and we're getting loads of questions and comments and leads from that. So I changed the channel, and it became, as I said, the brand became Bearded 365 Guy. I became the Microsoft 365 Guy. And we changed the business. We changed Integral because of it. So,
and was that because of the success of the YouTube channel?
Because people were coming to me saying, I love what you do on 365. I want it in my business. And actually, some clients, when they've got lots of servers in their office and they've got what I'd call an old-fashioned IT system, it's not always very profitable for us. And it's quite hard to support sometimes. It's all quite bespoke.
And bitty.
Yeah. A lot of moving parts. And so, chatting to Simon and things, it's like, well, let's change the business. Let's become the Microsoft 365 company. Because that way, we can appeal to customers worldwide because it's a cloud-based system.
Yes.
And we're no longer just thinking, let's try and get as many customers in Harrogate as we can.
Let me just pause there for a moment, because we were talking about it at the beginning, that effectively you responded to clients. You don't know how you got your clients. I suppose when you decide to go for Microsoft 365, you're saying, I can go international. There's a whole host of people there who don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And when I tell them, and they, perhaps for some of this, you don't need to pay for a license, and most of it, perhaps you don't. Yeah. There's real value in that.
Absolutely.
Real value.
So, just showing people how to use everything in Microsoft 365. People love it. And I think that's what Microsoft don't do very well. They release all these products, but I don't think they educate people very well. And so that was the gap in the market that we saw just by doing the videos. Let's test this and see what happens. And so we changed our business. So we are the Microsoft 365 company now, really. And, if a customer comes along and says, I've got, 10 servers in an IT room and I want you to come and cable it up. And it's like, it's not really for us anymore, that.
That's interesting, isn't it? So just tell me how the discussions went internally when you walked in one day and said, we're doing well on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And we're going to change the business. How did that conversation look, and what were the changes that followed from that?
Like a lot of conversations. So Simon's in the grind of the daily stuff, leading the team, sorting the financials out. And as he says, I'm just swanning around making videos. So I pop in once a week, twice a week with some new idea that we're going to implement within the next 7 days. So we sit down and we thrash that out. It was an easy conversation to have because it ripples through the organisation. What we can do now is when we onboard a new technical services engineer, their training is my YouTube channel. So you just say, train yourself on that. And so it was an easy discussion to have. We could adapt very quickly to it. And we've also now recruited Microsoft 365 development people. So getting the most out of bookings forms, the Power Apps, all these things within businesses, because businesses, they want to achieve more with less these days. And technology is a real enhancer. And they need to get the best out of the products that are available to them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, in fact, focusing on a market rather than being generic, is it's almost obvious in a sense, isn't it? It's a generic. It's a far better way to go. Customers like it; they know what they're getting. You're filling a gap in the market.
Yeah.
And hopefully, as a business, you're therefore being much more profitable.
Yeah, and I've been in business. I was 24 years old when I started Integral, and I think if I could tell my 24-year-old self something now, it would be just focus.
Yeah,
have this focus, because you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yes,
and I think too many businesses try to be everything. We're really focused now. We do Microsoft 365 and we do it really, really well. Yeah. Anything outside of that, and we're not interested in.
And it helps with recruitment as well. You were talking about your Microsoft developers. You know who you're looking for rather than some generic person who's just done IT and is an IT technician.
And your pool of new recruitment is worldwide. So I've spoke about our team in the Philippines. We couldn't do that a few years ago. I couldn't ask someone in Manila to look after a company in Harrogate with 10 servers in an IT room. That just wouldn't be possible. But because we're dealing with a cloud-based system, that's now possible. Our customer base is no longer just Harrogate. We want to appeal to anyone in the world who uses Microsoft 365.
And tell me, that change that took place, I mean, I think that is a lesson for us, isn't it? That if you see something that's better than what you're doing, change your business.
Change your business. Yeah. Absolutely. Don't stick with the same thing. No. Change it.
Because if you don't change, as people say, you either die, unless you sell it off, of course, but you either die, the business dies, doesn't it? It flattens.
It's like the old Blockbuster Netflix story, isn't it? Blockbuster didn't want to change or didn't want to change quickly enough, and they ended up dying. I think you've got to evolve. And as I said, I think the key word is focus. Focus on something. Focus on marketing strategies as well. So we've hung our hat on video. Video is not the only marketing strategy around. There's other things you can do. But I think a lot of businesses as well think, okay, we're going to do video, we're going to do LinkedIn, we're going to do TikTok, we're going to do direct mail, we're going to do telesales. And as a small business, that's really hard to do really well. So what tends to happen is what we used to do. We'd say, right, let's do some telesales. And then 3 months later, it wasn't working. So we'd say, that didn't work. Let's do LinkedIn. So we'd pay a load of money for some LinkedIn training and then say, that didn't work, because we weren't focusing.
No, but I think also you have to go through that to get to that point.
Yeah.
I think most businesses listening will either agree or be going through that same process of trying different things to see which is the best one.
And to see what you love.
And see what you love. That's
because if I'm putting 3-4 days a week into video every week for 4 or 5 years, I've got to love it. If I don't love it, I'm not going to do it. So you've got to have some passion there for it.
And that passion comes through I don't think, I mean, you can make 1 or 2 videos where you smile with the mouth, but not the eyes.
Yes.
But eventually you get caught out, don't you, if you don't have a real passion for it.
I'm stood here just doing it because I have to type thing.
And you can tell when those appear.
Absolutely.
But that does show if you commit to a strategy, you don't need every, in this case, form of marketing. You don't need everybody to come to you. You just need enough for the business to be successful, don't
100%.
you?
Especially in small businesses. You know, we're not talking about businesses, big businesses, but in small businesses, it's just about that focus.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. I want to ask you a question which is slightly aside from the business directly, but we've got obviously a focus at the moment on some very nasty conflicts going on in the world. The head of the MI5 recently said that Russia's doing all sorts of things on the streets in the UK, talking about cybercrime.
Yeah.
Where do you think we are with cybersecurity from your point of view? And tell us a little bit about what you do with that and where you think we might be headed.
I think certainly people my age, so I'm 43, and the cybersecurity over the last 15 years has become a problem. We've kind of grown up with it. So when I started Integral, it wasn't really something we considered much. And it's just grown and grown and grown. It's like, for example, my children now, they're quite used to enabling two-factor authentication on services. It's become part of their norm. Our norm isn't like that. And so we've got to adapt. And certainly the threats are there. I think one of the key things to do is education and educating people on what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. And it's the simple things, really. It's the two-factor authentication. It's things like that. When it comes to technology, I see so many businesses spending lots of money on different products. Let's buy this product, it'll sort us out. Let's buy this product, that fixes that problem. I don't necessarily think that is the answer. And I think that links back to our approach with Microsoft 365. We feel if a business buys Microsoft 365, the right license, and it's implemented and configured correctly, with the addition of training for people who are using the computers, we think most businesses have an adequate level of cybersecurity.
Well, that is interesting because we're sold left, right and centre all sorts of systems to help us.
Yeah.
But you think Microsoft 365 plus education
I do.
is where we're at or where we need to be at as a small business?
Definitely as a small business. And we get lots of customers who come and say, look, can you come and talk to us? And we'll look at the bill and they're buying all this and buying all this. And then you look at these products and they're not even configured or implemented correctly. So it's not a case of let's just buy this and it's going to work. They need to be managed. They need to be configured. And just keeping everything within Microsoft 365, I think, and a lot of IT people might watch this and completely disagree with me, but I think that is the way, definitely. And user awareness training, it's huge. We try and recommend that clients buy that as well.
So do you do that training as well?
Funny you should mention that, actually, James. So there's a lot of products in the market. I won't go into the names of them, but there are lots of products out there. And we recently thought, we like that product, but we don't like that about it. And we like that, but we're not keen on that. So we just thought there's no perfect product out there. So again, another idea that I took into the office, let's do our own. Let's just do our own.
You're clearly the ideas man in this place, aren't you? Yeah. So
you're launching early 2025 is the bearded cyber awareness guy.
Right.
Yes.
Is this going to rely on just you again? Or?
Yes.
Oh, my word. Oh, my word.
So if there's one thing we do, it's content, and we love it. We love getting on camera. We love doing it. So that's going to be something we're going to do. I'm going to push out to our clients. We're going to educate them on all cyber stuff.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Tell me a little bit about the, some of the government security schemes, if you like. What's your view on them?
The cyber essentials is obviously the big one. Yeah. People have different opinions about it. There's two flavors of cyber essentials. There's a basic assessment and there's a plus assessment. A lot of people think that the basic assessment isn't worth the paper it's written on because it's a self-assessment and you can basically fill in what you want. It might not match reality. And I've seen that happen. I've gone into customers before, new customers, and they've said, "Oh, we've got Cyber Essentials," and it's like, "How did you get that?" So Cyber Plus is definitely the way to go. And what it does, I think it just brings cybersecurity to the forefront of the business. They get assessed every year. It is a point-in-time assessment. So, today, your Cyber Essentials Plus, it doesn't mean to say you're going to be like that in 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time. So it is a point-in-time assessment. I think it's worthwhile because I think it just brings the issue and the subject of cybersecurity to the forefront. So I would recommend every business have Cyber Essentials Plus, every small business.
So just looking at that and, as a businessman thinking, oh my goodness, that's another thing to do.
Yeah.
So if you've got the Microsoft 365 environment, what else are you looking at in practical terms to get your Cyber Essentials Plus?
It's making sure, I think it's the management side of it. So we're an IT company, we put Microsoft 365 in there, we configure it all correctly. What Cyber Essentials Plus is doing is getting an independent person, not connected to us, to come in and say, yeah, it is right. It's like a third-party audit.
Yes.
And there's too much trust sometimes placed in IT companies. We're not really governed. Anybody can start an IT company tomorrow and say, look, I'm a cybersecurity company. So there's no kind of governance in place. So having that third party to come in, even once a year, is an ideal starting point.
Just a little aside, I had somebody approach me offering cybersecurity. I looked at their terms and condition, and they had the Data Protection Act 1998. Yes. This is 6 years after the 2018 Data Protection Act. So yes. That one went in the bin. So you're going to do this course starting in January.
Yes.
Presumably you can subscribe through the YouTube channel, or is all that to be decided?
Yeah, it's all to be discussed. So we're doing the new course gets released in the next couple of weeks. That's learning how to use the apps in Microsoft 365, and then we're going to January, February next year we're going to be releasing the cyber awareness training, and we're going to publish all that through Microsoft 365 because we like to keep everything within there.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. One last question as a Harrogate business. How do you find doing business in Harrogate? We've talked about employees and how it can be sometimes quite difficult to get the right employees, but it seems to be a marketplace with a lot of small companies. Do you find it a happy hunting ground?
Over the years, it's been good. I mean, we look after some fabulous Harrogate customers. As I said, I think it's more our business has changed now,
yes,
rather than Harrogate's changed. Yeah.
Jonathan, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.